Hey William, how you doing? This is Mike, and I'm going to take you through some lighting critique of your shots here. I grabbed these shots from your ArtStation page, and I just want to talk you through some just general notes here to give you an idea of some of the things that I would look at if I was reviewing your portfolio. So I'll start here. So the first thing that I noticed, and those TDU students that know me well know that the very first thing that I look at when I look at these exposures that show both interiors and exteriors, I look at the balance between the two. And that's because the way that light exists outside is much more powerful normally than when you're looking inside a scene. So what I would expect would be something much brighter than what we're seeing there. Even though it's like an overcast, snowy day, I'd expect this brightness to be somewhere in that neighborhood, maybe a stop or two brighter. Now, when you're looking at reference of architecture photography, lots of times they'll piece together multiple exposures into one image. But to me, it always feels very phony. It always feels very fake. It doesn't feel very photoreal at all. It doesn't feel accurate. It feels like an image that's been pieced together. So I would look at some reference. Reference is a huge part of what we do, and see how a room, how the exterior of a room looks, or the outside of the world looks when a camera is exposed for the interior space. So that would be my first step there. I'll go ahead and turn that back off. So from there, you've got some really nice elements going on. Like there's a lot of shaping, like going across the ceiling. There's a lot of value differences between light and dark. Um, there are a few, one other main area that I would really want to see you focus in on is around, it's basically these areas like these lamps up here, or these bulbs up there, this lamp down here, and this one over here. Like you can see, it just like these areas just are starting to feel a little bit CG to me. Like I would expect to never see this amount of dark value inside a light source. Like I would expect it to be something like that, but even like and then even kind of glow out a little bit. It just feels very contrasty in an area that I would expect there to be just like pure light coming out of it. Um, and then from there, just a few other little things like it would be it also doesn't feel like this light is affecting this the same way. Like this feels kind of the only spot where this light's hitting, and it feels a little off center. Like I would expect the white values on this pillow to be like the white values here are less than the gray values there. So I would just expect that to be hit a little bit more. One thing you want to watch out for too is like you're starting to see the edge of this Jimi Hendrix painting is blending in with the wall, so you'd want to create some separation there. And then these walls are like they're picking. I do want to point out this too, that this area here is picking up some really nice reflection. So you did a good job with the shaders there. But that's pretty much it. Again, just balancing the interior versus exterior light, and then really looking at reference on these light sources and getting those to match up, because right now they feel a little bit computer generated. But all in all, this one's looking pretty well. This guy's feeling like my initial reaction when I'm first seeing this one is there's a lot of visual confusion, a lot of just it's a very jumbled image. There's a lot of like shapes of the wallpaper, a lot of small shapes in here. And immediately my eye kind of scatters around the room trying to figure out what it is I should be looking at. And I feel like after I kind of take in the space that you want to direct the viewer's eye to this teapot, because it just feels the most like the character in the shot, or like the main central interest point. But the things that we do to get a viewer's eye to go to a certain spot aren't really happening. Usually we layer light values over dark, warm tones over cool, give it a little bit of a rim, give it something to kind of pop it forward. And really all that's but really nothing in this frame seems to have more importance or more care or more desire to draw the eye to a certain area. So I would say that would be the first thing would just be to identify the story that you're trying to create. And then within that, it's like you're starting to see some resemblances of like the mood that you're trying to strike, because there is some softness, there is some glowiness. I think you're going for like a warm kitchen feel, but I would just try and balance that with more composition tone. And one way that you can do that is a simple way is you can just blur the image, or like when I was in studying photography, and when I was working as a photographer, you would squint your eyes at stuff, and that's how you could kind of see where you're meant to draw the eye. And by blurring it out, you can see that everything's kind of muted midtones, and there's really no area other than this window that's really drawing attention or really drawing the eye to one particular place. So I would work on that. A couple little things that I noticed is like one is the orientation of the wallpaper changes from this wall to this wall. This wall, the wallpaper is kind of going this way, and on this wall the wallpaper is more oriented upward and downward. Just from an interior design standpoint, that would never really happen, so just watch out for that. I think that's what's happening. It looks like what's happening anyway. The scale of the wood grain on these cabinets in here feels a little bit large. I would tone that down. You're getting a nice clear coating here on this table. I thought that was nice. I think that you can use some more contrast in this area in here, like in the brights of the bowls, and then the cereal itself feels very flat, and I feel like you can get some more shaping on that as well. But all in all, with this one, I really feel like you need to generate a stronger story and a stronger visual composition. That would be my notes there. This guy I think is looking pretty cool. The one thing about this one is just the overall composition. There's a lot of dead space up here. I feel like I want to just pull the camera down a little bit and like take the camera just down so that if I just like cropped the top of the frame down to here, you would still get that same like bottom third aesthetic that you're going for, but it's just losing that little bit of dead space at the top. I think for me I would just balance out that composition a little bit more. See, this one you're doing a really good job of creating these bright patches on the cookies and layering them off of the background. The one thing about this one is these the cookies have a nice, like, there's nice rigidity in here, but it really feels like a bump map as opposed to like a displacement, because if I look around the edge here, that feels very clean. This edge feels very clean. This edge feels very clean. It feels very much like a bump map versus a displacement. And that would be one thing that I work on there, would just be getting that like actual edge to it. And then from a lighting standpoint, I would make sure you're doing a good job of getting reflections in this area, but you lose it here, and we lose kind of the edge of the glass. I would put a white card or something reflective off to the side that would really kind of help us make sure that we're maintaining the profile of this jar. I also feel like the milk can probably get a little bit brighter. It feels a little bit gray. I would just take that and just brighten it up a little bit. So you can kind of feel it in that region there. And that way it'll also help pick up some of the bounce color off of this cookie, and you can really start to get those kind of warmth values to really go together. That would be my biggest thing. Also, there's just a little bit, like a tiny, tiny bit of blowout in these regions, like right there. I would just watch those highlighted values, not in the chips themselves, because I really like what you're getting, these specular highlights, but it's just burning out just a touch in those areas there. I'm gonna do this one last. Okay, so actually, you know what? Yeah, let's do the TDU alley here first, and then I'll go back to the character lighting. Which, by the way, I'm very happy that you added the character lighting one, because I saw it wasn't there the other day, and it's there now. Because I was going to say you should have some sort of character lighting work on your reel, because I think that is definitely a strong thing. Okay, a few things here. Overall, it feels your consistency of your fog feels it feels a little bit uniform. Like there's the same amount kind of here as there is back here, and I would like to just kind of feel it fall off a little bit more as you move back in space. I would like to see a little bit more variation in that. The sky is a little bit too consistent as well. I would like a little bit more gradation in there, just something. The sky at this point is probably taking up 15% of the image. It would be nice to see if there were some clouds in there, or maybe some stars, or just something to get a little bit more visual interest. You're doing a really great job on these lights of getting that main light source in the middle, like actually seeing the filaments of the light bulb. But one of the things that I'm noticing from these lights is that the shadow that's being cast on the surrounding object is a little bit sharp, like even right there, or more especially here. Those lights would pass through the glass, which would diffuse them a little bit and kind of soften them up. And then from there, just a few other things, like I'm seeing this hot spot here on the wall. It looks like this light source may actually have penetrated the wall, or may even be outside the wall, or maybe it's just energy bouncing back and forth between those two there. But I would just like to make sure the light's inside this wall here, and then if you could just kind of cast it a little bit on the ground so you can kind of feel those areas bouncing off of one another. You're getting some good light from the interiors here and here. I would just say maybe put like some geo in there, like a cube or something to kind of break that up. I would also work on creating, that was a terrible square, sorry about that. This wall and this wall over here, look, they're very similar value-wise. I would just do something to either make this alley probably darker a little bit, just to get some separation between this wall and this wall, so you can feel that space, that shaping a little bit more. And then some of these elements are getting a little bit dark here in the shadows, like this plant kind of down here. I would just maybe push some specular values in those regions as well. And this guy over here. And then also, we're losing some shaping here on the wall. It looks like there's like no shadow going on at all in this guy. I would just like to maybe see some contact shadow there. And also, there may be some specular craziness going on here in the door, so I would just check in on that too. Okay, and now for the character one. So this is Piao from Boutique 23, really good stuff. He needs some more work. So you're starting to get some semblances of shaping moving across the face here, but I would really like to see just kind of like really feel the shaping coming across, really feel the light to dark value, because right now like this value and this value really aren't that much difference in terms of like a luminosity. Like let's go ahead and take off the saturation here and just look at value differences. So the value between this side and this side are really not that different, and I would really like to see a lot of tonal variation as well. Same thing down in through the shirt and through the hands. Everything's very balanced from left to right. I would just work on pushing some more shaping in there. Also, I would get a subsurface shader on his skin to create a little bit more depth to the skin, a little more flesh to them. And then just watch out for, like his shirt feels very, very gray. I would make that a little bit brighter. And his hat feels a little specular. It doesn't feel like a cloth hat. It feels almost metallic. We're also not getting any real shadow from the hat onto his forehead here. It feels a little bit floaty. So I would just, and then additionally, we're not really feeling this light source. We're not really feeling it on the surrounding space as well. So you'd want to see some like the light source of some sort, feeling it over here. I guess you kind of feel on top of these apples, but you want to feel it on the ground over here. You want to just feel what this is. And then in terms of the background, it feels very flat overall. It feels a little bit consistent. Again, there's this atmospheric fog that's in there, but it just kind of feels universally laid over everything and not really falling back into space. Same deal with the sky. Sky feels just like a constant color, so I would vary that up and create a little painting or something back there to put in the sky. And then in terms of the framing, he feels like there feels like a lot of space up here at the top. I would either make him his whole body, or like I'd either punch in or pull out a little bit, or just crop this down so it's not quite like something more like this. So you're not getting that's like so much breathing room up above his head. Let's see. Let's even look here. So one of the things too is overall, and in terms of like the value differences here, this is a good example of when I like to show in the levels here in Photoshop. So again, this is kind of the full 255 pixel value range. And you can see here that the majority of your pixel values are falling down less than like 150. So it really, everything is kind of clamped at the lower end. And this is just a little bit of a mock-up here, but you want to feel a little bit more dynamic range in your image. Like obviously looks pretty bad, but you want to feel some of the brights. You want the brights to be bright. You want the darks to be dark, and you want to feel that full value range because that's really when you're going to get your shaping. And then you'll need to do, there's some eye work that needs to be done here. You know, you can, usually you want the eye whites to be a little bit whiter. Right now, there's some craziness going on. Like, your eye would never really do that. Like your pupil would never look like that. It would still kind of be in the center there. So that's something else. So you'd want to fix that. So it's not quite as crazy. Trying to think what else. But yeah, so overall, I think it's really good that you added this because you need some character work, whether or not you are applying for VFX or animation. But I would also, again, just focus on making sure that you're getting some shaping here on these background props as well and feeling the shaping so that really stands out. So again, you want to focus on the three major things in all of these shots. You constantly want to be asking yourself these three things. Number one, what's the story? Number two, where am I directing the viewer's eye? And number three, how am I creating visual shaping across all objects? So that would be my feedback for you for right now. If you have any other questions, let me know, and I will look forward to hearing from you soon. All right, happy lighting.